Hello. I am currently sick and sitting on my floor because what else am I supposed to do? I'm sick, but I need to be working because my brain won't stop running, and if I don't start working on something soon, I'm gonna cry. So, I have a project that's been sitting in my room for 3 years now, and despite it sitting in my room for 3 years, I have started it 5 times and finished it never. That's why it's still here. So, here's my sad attempt at trying to finally do it by forcing myself to make a video about it for the internet, which is a horrifying thing to do. I'm very scared. So I have these boxes of very cliche romance novels that are paperback, you know. They're the books that you get at like a airport and there's nothing else to read. And I have 3 boxes of them. 2 of these boxes are full of books by Cheryl Woods. This box is full of Debbie Macomber, or Macomber. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I don't necessarily care though, because she has written more than I will ever write in my life, and for that I am a little bit upset. So, the goal with this project is to read through all of these books, starting with Cheryl Woods, because I have less of those, and I just figure it's nicer for my brain and myself to read through them before I start on the big box. It's not a diaper box. What are you talking about? It's a normal box. So, I have these books all organized on my little laptop here by author's name, year, publication, number that I have them under, all these things, etc., etc. And so what I'm going to be doing is reading through them slowly but surely and writing up a tiny review on Goodreads, and then at the very end of the video I will go through my thoughts and stuff. I will talk about the most interesting one. I will talk about the one that caught my attention the most. I will talk about the things that I noticed that were very similar. A lot of these books take place in either Seattle, Alaska, or Texas, and some in like Carolinas area. So I'll talk about that as well. I'll talk about how good these were actually written. If some of these are actually written well. I don't believe any of these are actually like very smutty. I believe all of these are very. My grandmother was very Christian, and as far as I know, most of these books are very clean. I also know that a lot of these books happen to be 2 books put together. This one is Tea and Destiny and Light the Stars by Rayanne Thane. I'm not going to be reading the books that are written in the back that if they are not by the same author, just for the fact that I don't feel obligated to. This project is just to read Cheryl Woods and Debbie Macomber's anthologies, except I'm not reading their whole anthologies. This is a fraction of what these ladies have written. They are very prolific authors, and I have minuscule amounts of their work. I also am going to be donating these books at the end, so they're not going to waste. There's a local paperback bookstore that takes donations in my town, and it's really cool. I'll actually probably end up having to go there to find parts of certain series. I don't want to be reading all of their books, but I will be reading if, say, the author has a series and I only have 4 of the 7 books in the series. I'll go find those other books and I will try to read them as well, just to judge whatever I have from the fullest. I'm sure at one point my grandma did own certain books. This is not all of her collection that I've inherited. A lot of the collection went to a couple of my aunts, just because they wanted to own certain things of hers, which is reasonable. But we're gonna get started. I believe the first one is Tea and Destiny by Cheryl Woods. So I will try to get some footage of me reading that, I guess. Some B-roll. But yeah, I don't know what else to say really, but I feel like I should be talking for longer. Because I don't want to start reading these. I've started to read these a couple times, and I have read some of them, so if they have been read completely, I probably will do more skimming than I will actually reading them. But other than that, I'm going to be trying to reading all of these. So, yeah, let's let's get started.
Hello, so already my opinion and plan and overview has changed in the past couple days that it's been since I recorded this originally. I'm actually now going to do a monthly overview, just kind of almost vlog style, say this is the books I read this month, not only to encourage myself to read more quicker, but also to distribute the amount of footage I've already gotten. Just because I don't want to sit here with hours of footage by the end of this and then have to organize it into something, as I have not made many videos before. I'm also going to be splitting up Debbie McComber and Cheryl Woods into 2 separate projects, just so that I don't have to discredit the work that each of them have done. They're both individual authors, I think, and that might be kind of important to distinguish them from each other. So that is the plan going forward. Hello, so I'm quickly going to just do a little bit of an overview. It is currently January 12th, and I'm about a third of the way through the book. Through this story, there's 2 stories within the book, so I'm actually not even, I'm barely into the book, really, but it's, I don't know, I've made decent enough progress. I'm page 90 out of roughly 200, so, quick notes on the story, because I think it's very interesting what I've gotten so far. A lot of beer, a lot of drinking. My family doesn't drink. Nobody in my family drinks, so it's really interesting that my grandma read these books where people are drinking constantly, it feels like. So, immediately, the dude has a manly job. He works in construction. I was anticipating that. I'm not surprised by it. He's described as a big man, which for any of you guys that have seen Jenny Nicholson's video on trigger warning, just makes me laugh whenever anyone is described as a big man. There's immediate retraction from him. It's just like immediately he's like, wow, she's gorgeous. And it's like, yeah, there are some women that are just immediately gorgeous, but like, it's such a stereotype in this book, in these kinds of books, where the man is immediately like, wow, she's so pretty, and the girl is immediately like, this man is a complete loser. And that's literally what happens in this book. I just wrote, she dislikes him. That's the entire note for that page. And then, of course, there's immediate sexual tension, sexual chemistry. They're like immediately like driven to each other, despite the fact that she hates his personality. It's so common in these books for them to just hate the man's personality, but there's still that sexual tension and being like, why do I love this man? And it's like, it's tiring. It's immediately like, I already hate this trope. I think it's dumb. They describe her as having great legs, which is a stereotype in these books. All of the women are tall. All of the men are taller. As somebody who's 4'11", it's a little annoying when all of the women in these books are 5'8" plus. Like, I'm not even kidding. They all are described as very tall. She's described as having great legs, and then he goes on this rant about how she shouldn't be uncomfortable about him talking about her legs. And she's like, no. Then, not too long after that, there's like 10 pages later, there's a joke about him ripping her clothes off and assaulting her, and I'm like, this is not funny. I mean, this book was written in the 90s, but still, it's like, this isn't funny. Nobody finds this funny, and if you do find this funny, you need help. There shouldn't be jokes about assaulting a woman and her laughing about it, because he is genuinely described as being a lot stronger than her, so it's like a thing that could happen, and she doesn't like him. Like, she's expressed, hey, stay away from me type energy, and it's just weird and gross. And then 4 pages later, they have their first kiss. And I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like it. It makes me feel very uncomfortable. And then later he like grabs her thigh and she's like, please don't, please leave me alone. And then they just continue to watch the football game together, this football game that they're watching. And then we have to get all the way to page 90 to get the first mention of tea. It's in the title. It's called Tea and Destiny. 90. Page 90 is the first mention of tea. This is upsetting. I did not like this, but oh my gosh, the window is just so bright. I guess I'm gonna have to close it. I try every day. See, now it looks like a cave in here. I did not like this book at all. In fact, I think it's one of the worst books. I mean, I've only read 5 books this year, but it's definitely the worst book I've read this year so far. Yeah, so it's Teen Destiny by Cheryl Woods. It's got a lot of cliche romance tropes in it. That's what most of these sticky notes are, just me nodding on, like, cliche romance tropes, weird things that happen that I'm like, ew, this is gross. The fact that I didn't know how many kids this lady had until page 217 out of 241. I mean, I'm sure I could have figured it out, but I didn't because I didn't care. So Teen Destiny is a story about this guy, Hank and Anne. I had to look at the book. That's how much I did not know the characters, because it just doesn't feel like a book I want to be invested in. It's not good. So Hank and Anne. Hank works in construction. Anne is a psychologist with 6 foster children. Hank moves to live with her for the season because he's working in construction in her area. He's from Miami, but she lives out in Key West, Florida, and so he moves there. They're both the godparents of mutual friends' children, I believe. And so they know each other via that. But it's not a book I got invested in. It was a very lackluster story. There were a couple plot lines with some of the foster kids, which I really did enjoy, those segments where they were talking about the kids individually. But they all got resolved really quickly to the point where I'm like, this is boring. It's just boring enough that it didn't provide anything. There wasn't a substance to this book. And I didn't read the second half, so I can't talk about The Light the Stars, the second book in the back. I didn't read it. I don't plan on reading it. My goal was only to read Cheryl Woods stories, and I'm not gonna start reading somebody else's books unless I have to, and I don't have to, so. I thought, I don't know, it's just, there wasn't much to this book. It felt very lackluster is just the word I keep coming back to. Basic. It was basic. It was a basic story where she had a failed marriage, which was a trope, but other than that, there wasn't much to their personalities, really, it felt like. He's a very manly man, she's a very feely woman, especially being a psychologist, but she doesn't want to acknowledge her own feelings. Oh no, how deep and how sad. It was just not much there. So I didn't enjoy it. I gave it 2 stars because it could have been worse. When I was bored most of the time, I was reading it. So, you know, what can you do? I have already started on the next book, which is A Love Beyond Words, and I already have notes. I already have things to say because it is already bad. I think this one could possibly be worse just based on the immediate start of it,
because it's immediately, like, it's grabbing my attention for the wrong reasons. It's not good. So we're gonna see what happens with this. It is the 21st, so we will see if there's much left for this month to update. I might be able to get through this book quicker, just because now I'm reading kind of like that. In fact, I've already finished 5 books of the 30 books that I needed to read this year, so I'm really excited about that. So yeah, we'll get that. I'll talk to you guys, I guess, in the next little segment.